Expressing one's leadership involves knowing how to communicate effectively with the team and with others. Even if this skill seems simple, it can become complex if one wishes to master all its aspects. Communicating is above all establishing a relationship with someone. Whatever its purpose, this relationship must be effective and clear, especially if it involves a manager and their team. Keep in mind 3 essential principles to improve efficiency and optimize leadership. Communicating well, 1, is not a natural process. 2, involves the subconscious. 3, is above all listening. 1. Good communication is not natural. It is almost impossible to communicate well naturally. Of course, we are all capable of spontaneous dialogue and thereby creating an interaction. But is this really good communication? Let's be honest. How many times before an interaction do we reflect on the objective to be achieved, the precise message to be conveyed? How often during the interaction do we really listen to the other person instead of preparing our response? How often after the interaction do we ask ourselves if we have been clear, understood? Was there something we added that was interesting to the other person? There is an old saying that goes, when you open your mouth, always ask yourself whether what you are about to say is better than silence. Spontaneity can sometimes be synonymous with authenticity, but in leadership, it is important to think before speaking. In doing so, we prepare our communication and challenge our beliefs and perceptions that prompt us to react too hastily. This cognitive bias prevents us from perceiving the reality of a situation, making us react in an inappropriate way, trapped in our perceptions to optimize our communication. Let's ask ourselves 3 questions. What is my objective in communicating? What is the best time and the best way to express it? How will my audience receive it? How can I best adapt it? The answers lie in the choice of content, the tone, and in the mastery of body language. Preparing your speech consists primarily in knowing what you are going to say. Nicolas Boileau understood it well. Whatever is well conceived is clearly said, and the words to say it flow with ease. Yet once this has been resolved, the voice and body language still need to be worked on. 2. Good communication involves the subconscious. Sigmund Freud was the first to use the iceberg analogy to explain where human behavior comes from. The visible 10% represents our conscious behaviors, and the submerged 90% are non-conscious ones. We therefore communicate with these 2 levels. Even if we do not want to, we communicate whenever we are in someone's presence. Every movement and gesture is interpreted by our interlocutors, even when we do not speak. This non-conscious communication often translates into what we call impressions, feelings, or even intuitions. Paul Watzlawick, a psychologist specialized in communication, summed it up by saying, "It is impossible to not communicate." We must keep in mind that communicating well consists of mastering our words, the tone of our voice, and our body movements without becoming artificial. When receiving, we ought to pause our internal dialogue and challenge our interpretations and feelings. Moreover, our first contact with others takes place mostly in this submerged part, that is, our subconscious. Think of love at first sight. It is difficult to explain rationally why 2 human beings can feel such a powerful mutual attraction without ever having spoken a word. This is why it is important to ask yourself, what is my posture? What is the expression on my face? How are my hands moving? How do I dress? The more we can offer our interlocutor an open and smiling posture, the more we will create the conditions for a serene communication, and this without even having opened our mouth. 3. Communicating well is all about listening. When we think of communication, we often focus on expressing ourselves. However, communication is firstly about listening and receiving a message. When we express ourselves, our intention is translated into words, into a way of speaking, into behaviors. It is this way of expressing ourselves that our interlocutor perceives in order to draw their own interpretation. Therefore, when we are in the position of sender, we must check what the other person has understood, and if we are in the position of receiver, we must check that what we have understood was the intention of the other person. When we are speaking, it is sometimes useful to ask questions such as, to make sure we are clear, what do you understand? And when we listen, we can check our understanding by rephrasing what we have understood. I understand that. Is that what you intended? If I rephrase what you said. With these follow-up questions, we will increase our chances of optimizing the exchange. Now it is your turn. How will you prepare your next interaction? What behavioral elements will you focus on to optimize your relationship with others? How will you improve your speech, your voice, your gestures?